This is Kitten Features, and you're listening to Show X Live with Ken in his student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wade in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Show X on VTWProductions.com. You're listening live at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on this, the 12th of February, 2017. We're joined, as always, by our good friend Ken. How are you doing today, sir?
I am fabby. I don't know why I use the word fabby. I hate the word
fabby. Are you fabby like
a
tabby?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm fabby like tabby. There we go. Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be home. How about you, sir? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing mostly well. I'm doing pretty good. I am just not sure yet if I am going to be dealing with the beginning of a potential cold. I was hanging out with friends that might have been sick and running around, and so I am preemptively trying to solve anything that could come up by having some lots and lots of vitamin C and such like that.
And lots of alcohol.
No alcohol this time, actually. I'm trying to just make sure I'm ahead of it, because I don't actually think I'm sick, and I don't think I'll be getting sick, but it's one of those, it's almost like when going to a convention, any of the con type stuff, it is advisable to always preemptively take extra vitamins and things like that to prepare yourself, because you're around so many people that the likelihood of catching something goes up significantly. And so it's more that in my head. But doing well with that. Hopefully also for people out there, I am sounding a little more sexy and sultry today, as I decided to start playing with the settings on my mixer board, and I decided to pump up the bass a little bit and down the treble. Because as I was listening back to one of the recent shows, I heard myself, I was like, oh, I hate the way my voice sounds. It is too tinny and high, and I hear too much from background, things like that. So hopefully this will even it out a little bit, and I will sound that much better. We shall see. But yes,
that's cool.
So things are
You
good.
sound good to me anyway, sir, but I think you always do.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we'll see how it goes. So yeah, doing well. So let's go ahead and kick things off this week with a little bit of
functional deviations.
So Ken, how are you doing today, and what have you been doing that hasn't been geeky?
So you say it hasn't been geeky. I want to just say one quick thing about WoW, because just right now, like literally about 30 seconds ago, I was just finishing off a Black Temple run, doing a solo thing for rep and stuff that I was just finishing off before the show, but then it took longer than I expected. And I just killed Illidan, and he dropped a Warglaive of Azeroth, which was pretty cool.
Is that so like his weapon, or is that...
That's the extremely rare legendary that he just dropped, which is it's something that I've always wanted. He has two of them, right, and I've only got one now, but it's still to get the other one. But as a demon hunter, I can actually wield it, so I'm currently walking around wearing a Warglaive of Azeroth, which is pretty cool.
Well, and now that you have it, you can transmog anything to look like it, right?
No, it doesn't work that way with legendaries, sadly. Yeah, but I can actually walk around wearing the legitimate thing though, which is still pretty nifty. So I'm happy with that. For anybody interested, I'm going to put an image in the IRC. In fact, I'll just put the Google search in the IRC so you can see a variety of them. But that's it there. It's a big ass cool blade thing that like pours green flames off of it. It just looks pretty cool. So that makes me happy, and I've still got some more Black Temple runs to do for my reputation grind, so hopefully I'll get the other one as well. Anyway, I'm good. I'm like I said, I'm glad to be here. I always am, but I'm particularly glad to be here because I've been away for work all week. So it was, as usual, it was my like 9 to 10 hour journey down south, 5 a.m. on Monday there. Then back again on Friday, plus, like 10 hours plus working each day while actually down south. So it's good to be home. And as such, as I was saying to Wayne before the show, I don't actually have that much to say because it really was just doing work pretty much all week. I tried out multiple restaurants and stuff, and that was cool. But otherwise, I've got nothing particularly interesting to talk about. So what I want to do is I want to actually talk about some other stuff, some articles and stuff, and some random news that isn't geeky. So just general catch up with the news, and you can hear our thoughts on it. How about that? interesting way to fill the time, I think. So first of all, today's actually Darwin Day. I wanted to say happy birthday to Darwin because
As I say, do we celebrate this by the celebration of saying happy birthday to Darwin, or to say good riddance to those who have failed in life and thus been excluded due to Darwin?
Or do we give thanks by celebrating the loss of crap life? Just be thankful for natural selection. I don't know. I think you can do either which way, whichever way suits you. Personally, I'm going to give thanks to all those ancestors of yours and mine who succeeded in breeding and passing on their genes to make the perfection that is Show X. That millions of years of evolution went into this.
Absolutely.
That's not a lie. That's not a lie. It's completely true. So
it's not even an alternative fact. That is an actual fact.
No, that's a real fact. That's a genuine fact, not an alternate fact. Yes, very good. So yeah, I've got some articles here. They're all. I took them from the weird section of the Metro's website. So that's just an FYI there. That's what I'm talking about here. So my first one is let's go with this one. As it turns out, according to the science,
We like the science.
We do like the science. I believe in science. I hate when people say that. Do you hate when people say that? It really annoys when people say they believe in science.
Well, there is a level
science.
of believing it, like the process of science and how it works, and thus accepting its results. It came up recently because there was a discussion about a politician where a young gal came up and asked him about climate change and basically said, because I believe in science, do you? As she kind of threw at him, and he had, of course, a wishy-washy politician answer for it. But,
Yeah.
The idea, that you accept that the scientific process actually results in things that you can accept to be true unless proven otherwise.
My point is, we can look at this from like a Spock-like perspective of I accept science. I agree with science. I logically understand the need and the process and that it works. I don't need to believe anything. Science has zero requirement for belief. You either accept the facts.
You say that.
Or you accept research, and if there's anything like a theory, not a theory because it's a bad word to use in science without the actual legitimate reason the actual use of the word theory. I mean more like a premise. If you have an idea, then it should be researched. It shouldn't be just accepted and assumed. Like vaccinations cause autism. Let's not just assume that. Let's look at the science. Let's actually. That's an assumption, and sure, we should. All assumptions are worth investigating, but let's actually go look into it. And if you look at the stats and the figures, you'll see that that vaccinations do not cause autism, according to the vast amount of statistics out there that is available for anyone to access and this kind of stuff from multiple countries and multiple different studies. And secondly, if it did cause autism, it's still better than the alternative. Autistic people are completely accepted and integrated in society. It's not as if they're a burden. They're just completely functioning normal people. And so if vaccines caused autism, it'd be like, all right, at least you're not dying of, deadly things. So
I won't
so
say
bad.
I won't lighten it that much, because autism is still a big challenge depending on the level that people suffer from.
Yeah.
But I will say that vaccinations, like you say, are very accurate. Now, when you say, though, that the idea that a belief in science is thing, but I would argue that there's at the same time a lot of people who seem like they actually don't believe in science, the process, or things like that, and make decisions based.
They believe in other things.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. They don't believe in science. They choose to believe other things, because I constantly not struggle with, but look at the term of of belief as a whole, right, and what it means to believe. Because I agree that there's a lot to belief, and belief is powerful, because I know there are things I do and I don't believe in myself. But yeah, it's one of those things that So in a way, I'll just say that the term doesn't bother me, because I think in a way it's challenging people who choose to believe other things and not accept what science provides.
Okay. So I think for me, it's more to do with the word itself. To me, the word belief is interchangeable with faith, right? So if you have faith in something or if you believe in something, they are the same to me. And I just think that you should never take something in as fact without it being fact, ever. Like you should never take actions based on an unknown unless it's to investigate the unknown. And that's it. That's just I like. People will say things like, "Oh, don't you believe in love?" I'm like, no, I understand it's a chemical process, and I accept the fact that love is a thing. It is an emotion that humans feel. I accept this. I do not believe in it. I don't have faith in it. I accept this. I accept this knowledge. But I can honestly say I don't believe anything. I intentionally avoid belief, and that's how I live my life. And I recommend it to everybody else out there. And in the same sense as certain politicians, I don't believe in science either, because I just don't believe in anything. I just accept science, and that's where I would say they go wrong. But anyway, that's a big side effect just because I got distracted by the word science, so apologies. So this article from the Metro says, "Be nice to your pets because they judge you on with their own sense of morality." So, okay. Dogs and monkeys, according to research, prefer to spend time with people who do good things and help people. After babies as young as 1 were shown to have innate morality. Sorry, not mortality.
Well, they do. No, they do have innate mortality. Everything has innate mortality. Everything born will die.
Not necessarily.
Everything born will die.
Jellyfish are immortal.
We have just seen that they have extended lives. That doesn't mean they're immortal.
No, because they're missing the part of their DNA, which what's it called? This will make my argument more proficient if I can actually remember the term of the thing. I'm sure it'll come back to me. Anyway,
essentially the component that makes cells start to age and break down and stop. You know, where like as we talked about, the DNA strands start to weaken over time. I don't know what's officially called, but it's the same thing that we're researching for humanity to try to reduce the effects of aging by keeping all the ends intact.
Yes. I'm trying to... God damn it. I'll find it eventually. So annoying. So jellyfish are immortal in the sense that they can divide infinitely. They breed and continue on without any need for ever dying. Their cells do not age, and in theory they can live forever. Admittedly, they will not, because eventually our planet will, and the whole universe will lose all energy and will eventually become a singularity again, and so on and so on. So technically they're not immortal, right? You can always go that length where they technically are not immortal. What I would say is they're not invincible, but they are immortal. They could, if nothing interfered, they could live forever. But things will interfere, and therefore they're immortal and not invulnerable. And I think that's an important difference.
Okay, yes. Natural aging versus something killing you.
Again, we got distracted here. So the point of the article was, Jesus. After babies as young as 1 were shown to have an innate morality, as opposed to mortality, that allows them to judge adults, James Anderson of Kyoto University wondered if dogs were the same. So the comparative psychologist tested dogs and monkeys to see if they have a set of morals. In the study, dogs watched their owners struggling to open a container, while an actor either helped, acted passively, or refused to lend them a hand. The actors would then offer the dog a treat, with the study finding pets that were more likely to choose the one who did nothing than the one who had refused, and dogs' long relationships with humans made them more sensitive to our feelings, apparently, through... and so have monkeys understood fairness and helpfulness. And they'll often shun actors who refuse to help people with basic tasks when they offer treats. So... Apparently, according to the study, one study, not multiple studies as well, according to this one study, dogs and monkeys have some kind of understanding of morality where they will only accept treats from people they've seen help others or are passive, rather than those who negatively do things, I guess. So that's pretty interesting. Dogs will actually, if they see you be nice, they'll be nice to you. So don't forget, be nice to your dog. Be nice to your dogger. Maybe not your dogger, but next up, let's see. World's heaviest woman at 78 stone is having life-saving weight loss surgery. So let me just get this number. Stone is a UK thing, right? So
yeah, I think we've done the math before. 16 pounds, something like. Or no, less. Yeah, something. I don't know. It's ridiculous.
It's either about Google knows, and she weighs 495 kilograms. I gotta say, I've only ever lifted a quarter of that as my maximum lift, less than a quarter actually. So I could struggle to lift her leg.
Wait,
maybe.
How many kilograms did you say?
495.
So, wow, 1,091 pounds for people in the U.S. and elsewhere. That is a lot. A lot.
Beyond, yeah, I hope it wasn't just excessive eating and it is some kind of... It's strange to hope a disease on somebody, but I'd rather somebody have these kind of problems through a disease than self-inflicted. So it's an Egyptian woman, Iman Ahmed Abd El Ati. I butchered that pronunciation, who has been unable to leave her house for 25 years, arrived in a specially modified Airbus this morning. To prepare for her flight, doctors spent the last 10 days optimizing the conditions to make the 36-year-old's journey more comfortable. Iman was lifted by a crane to the Saifi hospital, where she will undergo weight reduction surgery, according to the Hindustan Times. As a child, she was there we go. She was diagnosed with elephantiasis. I can't say that word.
Elephantitis.
But it's not got a T at the end. It's elephantiasis. Elephantiasis.
Okay.
There's the word there. It's totally random in the IRC. People not paying attention. The copy's like, "Good morning, heart," and I'm like, elephantiasis. Sorry, a condition that causes limbs to swell. So to be fair, she does have a health problem, right?
Yes.
But after a stroke, she was left bedridden, which led to diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension, and sleep apnea. Iman is now weighs 78 stone, and if confirmed by doctors, she will beat. It's not being confirmed, but if this is confirmed by doctors, she will beat Pauline Potter from the US, who weighs 46 stone. So that's a fair bit ahead. That's like right now in like modern man races, when like Usain Bolt beats the other record, it's usually by a few seconds, right? Like most records to do with human strength or whatever, or speed, they beat the previous ones by a few seconds. Not the case here. Apparently it's about 30 stone. 30 stone difference from the other.
That is ridiculous.
So that is 190 kilograms heavier than the next heaviest person. If it's legitimate. We don't know yet.
Yeah, that's over 400 pounds difference. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. But she's not been moved in the past due to being like, she's probably going to die if you move her kind of thing. So it's crazy. Next up we have Britain's youngest ever Euro Millions winner wants to sue the lotto, as in the company in charge of giving her the Euro Millions, for ruining his life.
What? Oh my god. Oh my god.
So,
okay. I'm very curious now, Ken. Please explain to me how winning the lottery has ruined this person's life. Now, I will tell you ahead of time, I'm preemptively wondering, because I've heard many stories of how lottery winners have done many things and poor decisions that allowed them to basically become poor or poorer than they were before they won the lotto. Because they lived very large and quickly with money, and then got themselves into situations where all that money went away and they were now screwed. So I'll be curious to hear what he did. So
yes, exactly, because I think statistically the majority of these people don't know how to use money properly because they never had a chance to, right? So having that kind of money, you want to splurge some, and then you'll end up doing something like spending 3/4 of a giant house, then realizing you only pay the taxes on it for 2 years, you know? And doing stupid stuff like that. Plus, you always want to give your money away to help out your friends and family. And then, you know, you give it to one friend you haven't seen in a while. Then your closer friend says, why did you give them money and not me? And then you feel obliged to give them money, and so on and so forth. So I'd probably adopt the rule of If anybody asks me for money, they will no longer be my friend. It's probably how I would go for it. Because there's no other way to do it, right? If somebody if somebody starts asking you for money, then you go, unless it's like, I'm dying, can I borrow a $5?
Well, there's a point to and this is always a hard thing, right? I'm not in a position where I have enough money for this to happen, but at the same time, I'm not without enough money to understand the desire, the heavy need for it when you're in sickness or other things like that. I'm in a comfortable upper middle class kind of thing, and so. Yeah. It's hard to say because I have always believed that if I feel generous enough to provide money for others, then by all means I shall. But if someone is going to specifically ask me for money, and I will tell you, I have been burned more occasions by people asking me for money and never paying me back than I ever, as well as when I've given money. So in most cases, I advise to most people, just don't give money. If you're going to give money, make sure it's strictly to give it, because you'll never see it back. If you give money, don't ever expect to see it returned. Ever. Unless you have legal documents that say otherwise.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But I would generally argue, don't give out money, give out stuff. If you plan to help somebody charitably, like for example, we have a couple of friends who right now they can't use their shower due to reasons to do with their problems moving around, and their shower in their current place is broken, and they literally have nowhere to shower. So we said to them when they visited the other day, feel free to use our shower, because that's a nice thing to do, and it'll cost us like a small amount of money, whatever. Who cares? It's just to heat the water. But it's important because it helps them out, and it's the nice thing to do. And when you hand over money, things get weird. Things always get weird when money's involved. So I don't recommend ever handing out money. Even when it's people homeless in the street and stuff, if they ask for coins, just say to them like, hey, I will happily take you to the nearest store, and I'll buy you a Costa, I'll buy you a coffee, and I'll buy you like some kind of cheap food that will last a long time. Right, because that's the efficient and smart thing to do. Like offer that. That's not a problem for you to offer. I say to them here, like here's a loaf of bread and sandwich making stuff, and that outside in this weather it'll last a few days. I bought you enough food to last you like 3 days. And it cost me the same amount of money that I would give you. But now I know you're not spending on anything crazy, and I don't feel the guilt of having to hand you money where it might end up being used for something malicious, right? Like it might be used to fund a drug habit or a drinks habit. You can actually help these people out. So be it a friend, family, or a random stranger, don't give away your money. Actually do something or offer stuff. Like when it comes to charity as well, I refuse to give a charity because the problem with charity is that often there's the administration fees, and as soon as any charity becomes big enough to require administration fees, the money doesn't entirely go to the charity anyway. It doesn't entirely go to the charitable deed. So, and often it's above 50%. So what will happen is your money kind of gets wasted. So yeah. Sorry. Okay.
Distractions.
Getting distracted. She did something confusing. She brought through an empty plate, which was really odd. I don't know. I thought she was bringing dessert, but she brought through an empty plate. But it turns out she's going for a nap, and if she left the empty plate next to the bed, the dog would eat the empty plate. So
yeah, makes sense.
Makes sense. So anyway, long story short, I recommend go do something nice for your community. Go give out soup in a kitchen. Buy extra tins of food at your local shop and donate those to a food bank. That kind of stuff's fantastic and really useful and legitimately goes straight to help people. That's what the whole thing about charity is, right? It's actually helping people. If you just give some money to somebody asking in the street, it might not go to anything good. And if you put your money towards an actual charity, again, you can't trust that it'll go to somewhere charitable. So there, for example, now this is one that's been hitting some news sites in the past couple weeks, and this is a little bit political. Hillary Clinton's daughter,
Chelsea,
her wedding. Have you seen the news that came in the past week about that?
I have not.
So apparently, now this is in no way verified. Do not believe things you hear on a podcast without fact checking yourself. FYI, because I'm also not believing this entirely until I see proper facts. But Apparently, she used the funds from the Clinton Foundation, which is a charitable organization, to buy her wedding dress. It's cost upwards of something like $12,000.
That's not how charity's supposed to work.
No, I mean that I don't see how that is a charity.
Pretty sure that goes against most rules about stuff like that.
Yeah, pretty sure it does. And apparently she also had like a secondary gown made or something, which was also very expensive, but used in the wedding as well, and it was very expensive. And her whole wedding cost like $10 million or something. So, and a lot of it was funded for by this foundation. And people will often do these kind of foundations, like in order to actually give to real charities, not to people. But anyway.
Yeah.
Back to the original story. Britain's youngest Euro Millions winner has revealed she's planning to sue Lotto, claiming that her landing the jackpot ruined her life. We're arguing there is a case for it, to be fair. So Jane Parks, who was 17 when she scooped the £1 million reward, said she sometimes wishes she never bought her winning ticket. Now 21, she confessed she's burdened with the stress of being a millionairess. Why not just a millionaire? Why millionairess? And people are not allowed to buy a ticket until they're 18 years old, so that's a little bit weird as well. But she claims this ruined her life. She said, I thought it would be 10 times better, but it's made it 10 times worse. I wish I had no money most days. I say to myself, my life would be so much easier if I hadn't won. People look at me and think, I wish I had her lifestyle, I wish I had her money, but they don't realize the extent of my stress. I have material things, but apart from that, my life is empty. What is the purpose in life when it's empty? So I can kind of agree with that. Previously, she was working as an admin temp on £8 an hour and living with her mum in a council flat. So, yeah.
Now,
earlier this week, she was... Yeah?
I was just going to say, what else does it say about her before I go off?
Earlier this week, she pleaded not guilty in her home city of Edinburgh to a charge of drink driving at McDonald's drive-thru. But she believes that she should not have been given such a huge amount, when she was underage and shouldn't have been allowed to have it anyway. Which I agree that she shouldn't have been able to win, because the conditions is that you're over 18. So why would she win? You know, that's a little bit weird to me. But regardless, yeah. What are your thoughts, sir, before I go in as well? What are your thoughts?
So, as the classic, adage goes, money doesn't buy happiness. Fair, I accept that, I agree. However, I also like the kind of add-on to that, which is, but it can sure do a lot to get rid of some of the challenges in life that you need money to go against, paying your rent, paying your mortgage, buying food, all the basic necessities of life. Those things become less of an issue when you can afford them. The other side of that, that I go is like, where I was about to go off is when you said, initially she was living in basically a small flat with her mom. Winning money does not mean you need to change your lifestyle.
True.
Does not. It is your choice in what you do with the money. The one thing I will say that is a challenge that people who win money often run into is that once it becomes known that they have large sums of money, it seems like people come out of the woodwork looking for access to that money. People who either ask for money, or charitable groups that say, wow, you should really do these things with that money, to whatever the case. People saying, hey, help invest in my business or company or this idea I have. Hey, I'm going to be the next, Jay-Z. I just need enough money to produce my album, so come invest in me. People come out looking for access to that money. And so the biggest challenge I would say for most people that probably earn or win a large sum of money is dealing with people trying to get access to it. Beyond that, if you win a large sum of money, the smartest thing you can do is just take a moment and start really going and hire some advisors about investing and things about the money. The smartest thing you could do is make sure that initially the money you get will always work for you to ensure you always have more money, right? Rich people get richer by investing and doing more to get more money. But in
not just investing.
Ways.
If you just leave it in a bank, the interest that you accrue on it will keep you alive. $1 million. Okay, let's work this out.
You got to remember, most base rates out of most banks, that's why I say investment, should only get you, well, most cases maybe get you 2% kind of interest on a regular bank account. If you do it intelligently, you might get up to 5 to 7%. I always bank on trying to do enough to get 5% back. But yes, if you got 2% off $1 million, that's essentially, was that $20,000 a year just from that investment if you just left it in a basic account, right? So if you figure someone who has, I always base off if you, because $1 million in bank I don't think is enough to retire directly. You have to be smart with that money.
No,
but if you won enough that you brought home like $10 million, at $10 million, that's $200,000 a year. Simple math. 20,000 times 10, 200,000 a year. If you cannot live the rest of your life and all of your kids from there forward off $200,000 a year, you have failed in some point in life. And so, as I'm sure you're starting to say there, Ken, essentially you do basic math, you should be able to live off the interest alone.
Yeah. To an extent. I wouldn't say the interest alone, but you're right about the accounting, right? What you should do is get an accountant and see if you can survive on interest and smart, wise investments, right?
Yep.
Because basically, if you do invest it, just kind of, they say low risk, medium risk, high risk, right? Where low risk means that you'll probably get a small amount of return, or you'll break even.
Yes.
If you put $1 million into lots of different low risk stuff, you'll probably make about 100,000 or something. Maybe. I don't know. I'm no expert, right?
The percentage goes up significantly depending on how much risk you put into it. But the higher percentage, but you also have that risk of it failing completely and actually losing that money you invested.
Of course. But if you invest wisely, if you keep an eye on the stock market, if you're just vaguely intelligent, make some kind of smart guesses through just stock market investments, you can probably come off better than you would have. Because having large amounts of money like that opens up the ability to invest in larger companies. Like investing in something like Apple isn't really doable for the majority of us. Because the majority of big companies don't do penny investments, right? The majority of big or $1 investments. The majority of big companies, shares will cost you a fair bit to begin with. Like maybe your rent kind of thing. So to be able to actually invest in like that it has a requirement of a capital. But if you have a capital, you can start investing in things like Apple. You can say to yourself, okay, I know the new iPhone is coming out next month. I'm going to go find out some details with the next iPhone and see whether and the competition on the market and see if their shares will go up when I do that. See whether it's worthwhile me buying 1,000 shares in Apple. That kind of thing can be really smart. If you actually do some research, you talk to some advisors, you have a think about it, you might actually make some money. However, if you do stupid stuff and you invest badly, of course you'll get punished for it as well. Or if you're just unlucky, that can happen too.
Oh, there's all kinds of things that happen, right, that can take away the money. My challenge is just, if you ever play the lottery, I always say a couple things about it. One, I say, for me, the lottery, the likelihood of me winning is the numbers say almost never going to happen. Somebody will win, but the chance that's me not. And so I use the excuse both that, well, somebody's got to win at some point, so maybe I will play. Why not? But the reality is when I play it, my mindset is this is a chance for me to dream about what would I do if regular financial concerns weren't a thing. If I could afford to kind of just go do anything. So it's a chance to dream. Now, what I do with that opportunity to dream, personally, is I then take it that step further to say, however, if I were to win something like this, here's how I would go about starting the experience. And I talk about, my biggest thing is I would disappear for at least a month. Take a little bit of it, go on a vacation, relax a bit, just so I can get away from the initial hype of everybody going like, oh my God, you just won money, hey! And just get away from it. And let it soak in, right? Let it soak in that I now have this. And in doing so, I would then start setting up the financial advisory part of it, because I would make sure, I also I would split my money into categories. I have the amount that I would let myself blow in the first year so that I can celebrate being rich. And then I would have the vast majority of it that I would delegate to myself access to each year, essentially, right? Give myself my own allowance or salary of it, and then pretty much invest the rest kind of deal, and kind of work that into the math numbers. Because I always feel like if you don't allow yourself some freedom, you're going to go stupid. If you don't at least let yourself to buy a couple toys and do something to enjoy the money, you're going to then make some very poor decisions.
I think you hit the nail on the head right there, because the truth is you really do need to control yourself, but yet still have a small splurge. Do something fun, do something that's worthwhile, so that you can look back and be like, when I won the lottery, I went on holiday to Hawaii. And I only spent 10 grand, on a 5-star hotel with all my family, and we flew out and we stayed there for a month. I only spent like, I don't know, 20 grand or whatever. But at the same time, that's still, what, 2% of my 1 million. So that's still a lot of money I've spent, and I enjoyed it. And now I get to live knowing that I will never be poor again, knowing that I will always survive, knowing that I can seek and do things I want to do with my professional life without having to worry about it.
Yep. Well, and it's the same logic I do for people just every year in life, where I say, hey, when you get a raise at work, right, or you get a bonus or things like that, it's the same. I use the same logic, which is, don't take that raise and suddenly start spending every penny of it because now you have more money. Take that raise, take a percentage of it, and allow yourself to enjoy that, but also take a percentage of it and put that into your retirement investments for the future, right? If I were to get a 3% raise in a year, I'd try to take about 1.5% to 2% of that and start investing that in my future, and then I will take that other percent to 1.5% and put that in my pocket so I can also accept and feel like I got a raise and I've done better in life. And so I do the same thing even on small increments, or if you get a large bonus, to put the majority of it away for something and take some of it to go buy something nice. And that way you get both. I got a raise, I got a bonus, I feel good about it, but I've also done something to help secure my future. And that's kind of what I'm advocating for anybody in a case like this. So anyhow, I have zero sympathy for her, because if you don't go into the lottery with the hope of winning and the mindset of, if I did win, here's how I would deal with it.
Okay, so the one thing I would say that I do agree with you entirely. However, she was underage at the time, so just in a legal point of view, she might have a good case here. She should not have been allowed to buy that. She should have been ID'd if she wasn't.
Okay, so here's the question. If she had a case for whether or not she could have gotten the money, if she won the case, should they take the money away from her? But no, and as Kopii said at the beginning of us talking about this, and thank you, Kopii, for this, she said, let's see, why would you sue someone because you had too much money? If you win, you just get more money and make your life worse. Like, what's the point of what she's trying to sue for? Other than if it were to make sure that the regulatory board that did it would not allow someone her age to win in the future. But if it's for any kind of monetary compensation for the stress or anything she's going through for it, then I have many expletive to say about her need to sue. And so that...
Yes. I would imagine it's actually, I want more money than anything else. I think it's just an excuse, but...
That's my challenge.
Really knows?
How many people sue for a law to be done correctly versus how many people sue for, I don't know, more money. And yeah, just... Okay.
Exactly. So I've got a couple more, sir, but I'm wary of time, so I want you to have your chance as well.
Right.
So have a week to yours. If we have extra time, we can finish the rest of the articles. How about that?
Alrighty. So, let's see. It's this week, and one of the first things I'd like to say is a happy birthday not only to Darwin, but to my friend Kodama's young son. I'm actually going to be going to his birthday directly after the show, so I won't be gaming tonight. They're having his 4th birthday, and in celebration of it, he is quite the nerd and geek growing up already. I'm very proud to say that my buddy is raising him right. So they're having a space-themed birthday party, and in doing so, I've got my shirt on here they wanted something spacey, and so I'm wearing my space-themed kind of winter, or looks like a bad sweater shirt that I'll be wearing. And yes, as Kopii throws out there, Duchess! That's hilarious, because of his actual name. So happy birthday to him, and looking forward to that party today. Also, let's see. I'll talk about those things first, and then I'll get back to what I watched. All right. So yesterday, I went out with Dr. Genkadesho, who just showed up as well in the IRC. Went to check out a place called the Aka. Oh God, I'm going to never be able to say this. The Akihabara Arcade, which is a place down out in Westminster here in Colorado that is a Japanese-style arcade. And Japanese style in the sense that they actually have imported machines directly from Japan, the kind of cabinets they're used to, little white plasticky cabinet type things from Japan. And thank you, Kopii. Akihabara. And it's funny because Dr. Genkidesho is very good at saying Japanese things. He lives the culture. And so, yeah, anyhow. Went to the bar. Or it's a barcade in the sense there. They do have an active bar there as well. It's not a huge arcade. I'm trying to think. They had maybe 20 plus game cabinets there. Not a ton, but enough to have something to run around in. And it was neat because a lot of them are ones I recognize. They had like Ghouls and Ghosts. They had, what are other ones I recognize? They had Street Fighter or one of those. They had Skullgirls, which I was kind of surprised to see. And
wow, okay. I don't actually know that one yet.
And in them, as DJ Bullock brought up as well, is that they, like the fighting games, primarily they would have a couple that were forward-facing against each other, where in Japan they'll often do it where instead of you having to sit next to the person you're fighting against, you sit across from each other, which worked well until, DJ Bullock beat me multiple times in the, was it Marvel vs. Capcom version they had? And each time he beat me, he'd look over around the console like, oh, hey, yep, gotcha. How'd that feel? You butt. But
that's pretty annoying.
No, it's all right. I got my revenge later on a game that I do not know the name of, but was absolutely gorgeously animated. But went and checked it out. Had to leave a little early. A friend of mine I was hanging out with was feeling sick. Had to take them home, come back. But then hung out a little longer, and in between went to a restaurant. But they also had what was cool there was, and people might have seen this recently, that some individuals have built an end table or a kind of coffee table sized Nintendo controller, where it's got a massive controller on one side and two buttons on the other. And they had that set up in front of an area where they had a couch and a projector on the wall, and they were playing Nintendo games. So I don't know I think they either had like a Retrocon or something there, but in doing so, you could try to play on this massive controller. Nintendo. When I came in, one of my friends from Game Fest, Snuggle Buddy, was also there, one of our mutual friends, and had his kids there, and they were trying to two-player play Mario Brothers, where he would control the A and B, and his daughter was controlling the actual, like,
oh, that's cute.
Yeah, the up, down, left, right on it. And it was just fun to kind of watch them try to play it. It was entertaining. But that was a really neat thing to check out. We'll have to go back there at some point. And one of the coolest things is, even though on the machines they say they are keyed where it said like 100 yen, I think, per play was the average of what they showed, or 100 yen kind of thing, they've keyed them all to work with quarters, so it's just like 1 quarter each, which is really cool.
Having to change your currency over every time you visit would be quite a pain in the butt.
Although, wouldn't it be damn cool if they had like, for the coin machines, instead of it spitting out quarters, if it spit out like yen coins based on kind of near current rates? That would be actually really fun. So anyhow, it was a neat place to go. And then he also,
be a little cheaper as well.
Well, yen being as a way it would be, and actually they could do their conversion there and still make it a quarter, right? It would work perfect.
Yeah.
But they also,
10,000 yen or something.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. They also had, what was it? We went to a restaurant called Sakana Sushi, which, as DJ Bullock will say, is probably one of the best Japanese restaurants he knows of. The owner, he told me, lived in Japan for like 25 plus years before coming over and opening his shop.
Wow.
And is really like, it's interesting because we went there and it is one of the tiniest shops I've been in for a restaurant. It's really small. Anyhow, went in and they had some amazing food. I only tasted some of the sushi, since I'm not really big on seafood, and a lot of Japanese food is. But DJ Bullock and his friends that were with us, they got kind of bits of everything from the sushi too. And he can write it, I can't say it, but essentially little fried balls of octopus and such put together. That admittedly smelled very nice, but I did not work up enough courage to try them. To put the warm balls in my mouth. Yeah, the takoyaki. And so
yes, that's what I was talking about.
I did not put the warm tentacle balls in my mouth.
It's like a weird hentai film.
There were some jokes along those lines as we talked about it, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But the food was amazing. I had ramen myself, and
good choice.
The broth of the ramen itself was so flavorful and good. and the noodles were cooked really well. And so it's a place I'll have to check out again if I can get up there. And it's somewhere that DJ Bullock goes often and knows the owners and such, and speaks his bits of Japanese to them as he goes in there. So yeah, it was a real fun experience. It was kind of all in celebration, as he put out there as his kind of mini Japanese celebration day, and so that was fun to partake of.
If/when you ever visit here again, we have a place in town called Bite East, and it's a Japanese / general Asian food, but they're mainly Japanese, but they try to cater to other Asian foods as well, and it's absolutely delicious. It is so good. They do deliver takeaway sort of food. The problem is it's tasty and everything, but it's such tiny quantities for the same price when you do delivery for some reason. So when you show up, oh my god, it's a little bit expensive, but the food is so tasty. It's just, when you're talking about ramen, it just makes me think of it, and I kind of want to just go down there right now and buy large quantities of it. And they also sell this alcoholic beverage called plum wine. It's like wine.
Plum wine is my jam.
Oh, I love plum wine. It's so sweet and delicious. I need it. I need it in my life more.
You do realize you can buy bottles of plum wine, just so you know.
Not easily here. I look around, but you can't easily find it. You have to remember, you're in the U.S., capitalist central, where it's a lot easier to find these kind of things in here. So maybe I should look a bit harder. But also, I've been thinking of becoming a member of Costco, but I don't know how to get past the application process, by the way, and it might be available there. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, check it out, because plum wine's wonderful. There are so many things that I do love about Japanese culture. As Dr. Genkidesco puts out there, says, tell them about Choya, because Choya, and I don't know if that's how you say it at all, is a decent plum wine that is at a decent price. There are some finer ones that I'd love to find, and well, it's nice too because they come in a large clear cylinder of a jar kind of bottle that has actual plums sitting in it. And so you can tell it right away that it's there, that it's the Choya brand of the plum wine. But there's lots of varieties out there, so good. Anyhow, so did that, had a great time out there, and then started heading home a little later in the evening. And upon heading home, I was driving, and there's a point on the road where it switched off and takes the main highway down towards my house, the way I normally go, and straight towards some other things. And I was kind of sitting there like, okay, I should just go home now. But I suddenly had a moment of thinking, like, wait a second. There's something else going on this weekend that I totally should at least go check out, even though it's late now. But, people are there, I'm sure. And that is WasabiCon, which is a local,
nice,
very, yes, I will never say it right, Kopii, thank you, me. That, until I get it, trained in me. I can't say his name. That's why I say DJ Bullock most of the time. But heading down where essentially Wasabi was happening at the Crown Plaza, which is this little hotel that I absolutely despise for conventions because the layout is terrible. But it's, I guess, one that gives decent enough deals for people holding cons that they often book it. So Wasabi is one of these conventions that's focused around anime and Japanese culture that's been around for several years and such. And it's one of probably the second convention I'd gone to, really, outside of NDK. And I had heard a lot of things leading up to this, and the last year I'd gone, it was basically a hall con. It was so busy, and people were constantly stuck in the halls that it didn't feel like you were really in a convention sharing it with others. So I kind of signed it on my list of things not to do in the future, which apparently is something that a lot of other people did. Because I was hearing reports from the Friday at the convention that there might have been 150 people at the convention. Which,
that's it?
For people who are aware of how these things go, for a one-day convention, that might be okay. And a small little one that's just a one room. For a convention that's renting out most of a hotel kind of thing, that's not good.
They must have lost a lot of money.
I'll be very curious to hear anything after this. I'll be actually very surprised to see if the convention continues after this year. Now, admittedly, I've always said Denver has a ridiculous number of conventions. There seems to be no end to people wanting to start and to host their own conventions for whatever geekdom they have, which can create some levels of competition for attendance because there's only so much time off and money for people to spend in a year. But Denver's stupid, or Colorado's stupid with conventions. I also know there's a lot of politics and drama behind conventions in many cases, because people will create a convention for whatever reason and maintain them for whatever reason, and sometimes those reasons don't hold up in the long term. So a lot of dancing around saying that a lot of times there's personality conflicts, fights, people not getting paid properly, not treating guests properly, whatever. Not saying that Wasabi's this con, but that just happens across the board where you'll hear stories about some conventions being managed better than others.
Well, also, that's the thing, right? It's a set of people. That's what any con is, right? And because they're innately filled with people, there's bound to be some freaking people being crazy.
There's always potential for drama. Well, and I had heard scuttle around Wasabi. I don't know enough of the details to get into it here, but things about ownership and changing of ownership and potential where they probably would have benefited from changing the name of the convention instead of continuing it after it had some shakeup. Regardless, I have noted over the last years it's been declining, this year being surprisingly small. Now I say that, I went to the convention and actually had a blast. Mainly because I showed up late enough, it was like after 9 o'clock by the time I got there, that the actual convention was over for the day. There were no panels going on, no events. It was just the people who hang out at the convention still hanging out and socializing, which is really all I do at conventions anyways. So for me, this was perfect. I showed up and just started wandering the hall a little bit and very quickly ran upon people I recognize and know and that I've hung out with recently.
That's good. That's always very useful.
And it's funny because the groups I ran into, I had it commented against me more than one time that they were like, dude, I didn't think you were coming this year. And I was like, I wasn't. And I'm really not. I just kind of showed up at the hotel where the convention is happening because I knew my friends would be here. So it's one of the few times I showed up at a con and didn't buy a pass or anything because I didn't do any of the convention things. I hung out in the common room with just people that were in costume and chatting.
Hey, fair enough. I don't think you're I don't think you earned enough to of the entertainment to feel.
I didn't do any convention things, so that's all right. But at the same time, I still got kind of like my fix for what I love about what I do with conventions now, which is I got to see some costumes and see some friends. Had a couple friends who won some of the contests for costumes and things like that, which they did a very good job. Congratulations. And just kind of hung out and chatted with them, which was a lot of fun. And so while the convention itself, I doubt will continue much forth, or I'll be curious to hear more about after the fact.
I'd certainly be surprised.
I had a good time hanging out with my friends from the convention scene, which I always do. So that was a lot of fun. Ended up going to like dinner afterwards to get some dessert and just kind of hang out and chat with some others that I'm actually planning out of state conventions with. That I'll be going to in the future. I'm going to NakaCon, which is out in Kansas City area, I think, and I'm going to ACON, which is down in Fort Worth, Texas, in June and such. And so I was talking to people like that for travels and things. So that was good. It was nice to like randomly run into one of the groups that I'm actually trying to plan costumes and convention stuff with.
Yeah, that's useful.
We got to chat about that. It's always
to catch up people you don't see all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that was the other thing I did. The last thing I did on the edge of geek, non-geek, was I went and saw with my cousin Hostel Prey the new movie John Wick Chapter 2. And I'm not sure if you have tracked on what John Wick is or have seen any of the previews for this or saw the first one.
Nope. I can't say. I recognize the name, but I can't say I know what it is. No.
Okay, so John Wick is an action flick, no question about it, that stars Keanu Reeves. And
I saw a GIF today of him preparing for his role as as the main character. Yep. And he became extremely proficient with actual live weaponry.
Yes.
Like, he was comfortable at shooting at multiple targets with multiple different weapons to prepare for this.
He throws himself into a role, and that GIF is a great one. And there's video of watching him training where he apparently now can go compete. He got proficient enough at handling weapons and shooting that he can compete in some of the tactical courses where you take a gun and you actually do a running course where you have to go through targets up here and you have to hit all the targets accurately in a certain time frame kind of thing. It's basically a race to do so, and that he competes quite well at them because he got proficient enough as he was preparing for this role, which is an extension of the first John Wick movie, this one being the next. And John Wick is something, the first one that came out a couple years back, that kind of flew under the radar for most people that I know of, where they heard about it, but they're like, whatever, and they didn't even see it. I will tell you right away, I really enjoyed the first John Wick, and I highly recommend everybody go see it. it is an action flick, right? I have
Sure.
described the
Yeah,
first one as being gun fu, in the sense that it has levels of fighting and things like... No, Kopii, I am going to AN. You shush. I was talking about the people I specifically was talking to about those conventions. Anime North, I'm still going to go visit you up there and take other person with. Because that's an out-of-country con. That goes beyond out-of-state. Look at that, trying to give me grief. But John Wick is all about action in the sense that gun fu, in that it's both martial arts and fighting, as well as shooting with guns in a way that is very believable. And that's something that I like about this series as it continues into the second, compared to a lot of other action movies out there. They take account for, amount of bullets in a gun, things like that, for what bullets actually do to a person. And in a way, it's saying it's gratuitous in the sense of the amount of gunplay there is and the amount of people that die in the movie. But I will say at the same
what
time,
do you
it's
expect from an action flick? That's what it's for, right?
Yes, but they do it in a way that I also say it's how do I say it's gun porn, but it's not let me focus on someone's head exploding kind of gunplay, where it's not gratuitous in the sense that it's gory.
Okay, there's a difference between gore porn. Yeah, there's gore porn, and then there's gun porn, right? There's a big difference. Gun porn is often like, wow, look how beautiful this weaponry is. It's so slick and shiny, and it's so rare, and it does.
I don't normally describe it that well, but
yes.
yes. Maybe not that kind of gun porn, but yes.
I like gun porn.
Well, okay, so this one, I will say, if you like action movies, if you like fighting movies, and yes, this movie even kind of has a plot. The key to it is so good in the way cinematography is done. It flies in the face of the things that I didn't like about the new Resident Evil movie that I talked about, where in that one they did the shaky cam BS everywhere.
Yeah.
This one was like that proper blend where there was some shake to the camera and some motion in the camera the way it was shot, but you could tell it was shot for the sake of that scene. That they would change camera angles because of that scene. And there were some great examples of the director taking advantage of what was being used in the scene. There's a scene that has a lot of mirrors around it, and they specifically chose camera angles to take advantage to let you see the perspective of the character that it was focusing on or not, as to why the scene would play out the way it was. So it was really using the camera in the scene to tell the story and to give you perspective versus, I don't know if this is really choreographed good, so I'm going to shake the camera everywhere so you don't really see what's happening. This was an example of I'm going to highlight how good the cinematography, or how good the choreography is, how good the storyboard is for what's going to happen, that you're going to actually go like, holy crud, this is amazing. And so I really give credit to both the way it was filmed, the sequences of action in it. The theater I went and saw it in, they had the volume turned up to almost 11 because you could almost feel the gunshots, how sharp and metallic the shooting of the bullets were. I have no question that is how all of those guns in that movie sounded, because the accuracy and the realism was amazing. And so for someone like me who likes a good action flick, does not mind some blood, John Wick 2 continued the stream of it and was kind of like a unexpected hit. I would say as good or better than the first. And they also do that little bit of violence porn in the sense that they come up with multiple creative ways in which they dispatch people. And
that's fun, though.
It is, and that's the thing. They do it in a fun, rated R action kind of way.
Because honestly, it must be pretty tough these days. Like if you think of all the action films out there from Kill Bill years ago, all the way to nowadays, where we have like what's it called? Not Mad Henry. What's it called?
Oh, the Hardcore Henry.
Hardcore Henry, yeah. Hardcore Henry and etc. Like we've come up with so many different ways to show violence. We're actually we must be running out by now. So to be able to show like a good action flick is getting tougher every iteration. So congratulations to them if you enjoyed it. That's good.
If you like a good action flick that will be bloody and stuff like this, I highly recommend John Wick 2. if you haven't seen the first, I won't say it's a necessity, but you will appreciate the second one more after seeing the first. And actually, the way it takes place, you can watch the first and lead directly into the second one. It is maybe a day's difference in time between the scenes happening. And I started rewatching the first since I have it. And just in the opening sequence, they showed things that in the second movie I saw again, like, oh, that's right. They did actually show all this in the first one. And so it holds true. It's solid. It was a damn good time. And so just throwing that out there for people. If you want a good bloody action flick that the guys or anybody who likes that kind of thing can get together and walk away with several oohs, ahs, and like, I can't believe I saw that and they did that, you'll enjoy it. I was gushing about it pretty much all day after watching the movie. I enjoyed it. So throwing that out there. It's brand new in theaters, just opened this weekend. I recommend John Wick 2. So, all right. I'm going to let that energy drop down a little bit. I'm getting worked up just remembering it because it is that actiony good. I probably should go see it again. But with that, I think it's
good.
I really enjoyed it. I will. With that, we should take a break.
Yes.
Go to play a song that I liked the name of it, as it is a remix from OC Remix from the game Super Dodgeball, which is an old arcade and NES game. But we'll see what you think and how this song goes. So we're going to take a break. We'll be back just after this, and we'll continue talking about things a little more geeky. So, all right, everybody, you're listening to Show X on VTWProduction.com, and we'll be right back.
Send in your emails to showx@vtwproductions.com. listening to Show X on btwproductions.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. All right. So, actually, I quite enjoyed that song. And for those watching the video feed, I also threw up a little video of Super Dodgeball from the arcade so you could see what that was from, because I thought that'd be fun. So, hopefully you enjoyed that. But it is time for us to switch gears now and talk about things a little more geeky with...
I'm a geek. Are you a geek? Geek cred, level up!
So, as we get ready to talk about things that have been more geek-related this week, Ken, what have you been doing that's been geek since you didn't have a lot of non-geek in this last week? I know you've been busy working and such.
Yes, I have. And sorry, I was just quickly chewing on the last remnants of my dinner there. Well timed. So what I can talk about is I did do some geek stuff, even though I didn't have much free time. But obviously, I had to travel down and travel back up, so I had some time there. And quite often when I'm working, I like to have something on the TV next to me. So I've got a couple things I can talk about. Well, first of all, let's talk Warcraft, because that's the easy go-to. Just a couple updates, because I like talking about what I've been up to in WoW. I haven't got any new mounts, which I'm kind of sad about, because that's been my go-to plan. I've been trying to get new mounts, and I've already done my... In fact, let me read off from the list of things that are currently on lockdown. I've done my... Black Temple. God damn it, Tank. My dog has learned to open this door, and he just comes in wherever he feels like. And it's really annoying because he leaves the door wide open when he comes in, meaning that my napping wife can now hear my voice. You're a pain in the butt, dog. You're a pain. So I've done a few things. I've done Black Temple, which, as I said earlier, I got the legendary item from, which made me quite happy. But I'm also doing it for rep grind, so that's good. I did Tempest Keep. I have no reason to do that other than to get the Ashes of Alar mount, and I've not got it yet, so that's a pain in the butt. I did Magtheridon's Lair, as well as all of the heroic instances there, because I'm trying to just get my rep up with Honor Keep. And I did Karazhan, and I didn't get that mount either. And I've also did Stratholm as well, and also didn't get that mount either. Again, so I'm trying every week to do some grindy things, trying to get all my mounts, and I still haven't got them all yet. However, I spent a lot of time doing pets this week, pet stuff, and I decided to do some leveling. And I got so invested in this TV show that I've been watching, which I'll get onto in a moment, that I just passively did pet battles for several hours, and I've now got, like... Before I had something like 5, 6 level 25 max level pets. I now have 26. Just because I just sat pet battled over and over and over. Plus, you know how ever since Wrath, we've had like daily quests and weekly quests. They're available in Dalaran. Well, the Dalaran weekly quest this week was to do pet battles, 5 PvP pet battles, and if you win 5 PvP pet battles, you get a little rune which will level up pets from level 1 to 25. So I decided to get that as well, and I got that, which is pretty neat. So I got my little Ragnaros from 1 to 25, which is pretty sweet. I also leveled up my Nubisath Idol from 1 to 25 as well, manually, because he is so powerful and ridiculously useful. I also had no humanoid max levels, so when I got that, I got the achievement for a max level pet of every class type, so that was pretty cool. But sadly, I've not done half the stuff I want to do. I'm kind of getting stuck with item level, because... Right, at this point, mythics don't really do much for me, generally speaking. But I don't feel good enough to do any higher level mythics. So you can do... So let me explain a little bit for those who aren't, like, also playing WoW these days. When you do dungeon runs, you can do them as normal, as always. So you do a normal dungeon run, you have a chance to get some stuff, whatever. And you do heroics, which is a slightly more difficult version. You need a certain item level to get in. I think it's like 820 or something. And if you have 820 item level, you can get into any heroic. Then you have a slightly higher chance of getting some cool stuff. Also, some achievements require you to do on heroic to get certain achievements, right? But what they've recently released with this expansion is mythics. And a mythic is sort of like the heroic version of heroic. It's the next tier up. It's kind of raid level. dungeon. It's still a 5-man, but it's more difficult to do. And then they gave this increasing up to plus 15, I believe, levels of difficulty above that. So you can have Mythic plus 1, Mythic plus 2, Mythic plus 3, Mythic plus N, right? So, but each time it gets more difficult, there's a chance, I think from level 3, you get an additional effect, as well as it just generally being more difficult. You'll also get an additional effect, such as like bolstering or bloodthirsty or whatever it's called. And basically what these things do is gives all the mobs an additional effect, as well as having plus 12% damage, 12% health. They might also have something like, when any mob dies, all those around it will become enraged and get 50% extra attack speed. Or whenever one gets attacked, the other ones get healed, or something like that. So, and then by the time you get to like plus 15, they might have like 3 or 4 effects, I think. So it gets really difficult. Like, you need to be really high geared and know what you're doing to get to that sort of tier.
Yeah.
Now, the highest I've done is like plus 7. But I'm feeling like I'm plateauing a little bit, but because I'm not in a raiding guild and I don't raid other than looking for raid through the sort of pug system, it means that I'm kind of getting stuck here. So I'm struggling to level up that way, which is kind of a shame. But I'm still enjoying the game. I'm still enjoying doing my dailies. I'm still enjoying doing the other content that I haven't done before. I've decided that my Demon Hunter is my go-to achievement hoarder. So I play my alts for dungeons and leveling and that sort of stuff, but I play my Demon Hunter for doing things I wouldn't normally do, like not just doing a dungeon, but doing a dungeon within 7 minutes or something, just to try and get the speed run or whatever it may be, so I can get those sick achievements and get all the other mounts and pets and whatever else, tabards and titles and etc. That's the plan anyway. However, I'm really struggling with events because I find the events to be extremely dull. Like the Valentine's Day one on just now, I just am not interested even vaguely. I just do not want to do it. I'm trying to avoid it. I just hate it. I hate them. They're just so dull. I just... anyway, I need to get back. One day I'm going to need to do them for achievements, because if I'm trying to do them all, then one day I'll have to. Anyway, so that's what I've been up to in WoW. I also put down here worms, because on my phone I've been looking for stuff to play, and one of the things I decided to do was I decided to install all of the worms that I could on my phone, as in not like...
all the different types of worm games.
Yes. Worm games. So that I could... play them on the train, and because I'm kind of addicted. I love them ever since I was a kid, and so I installed worms. I installed worms 3 and 4, and I think I got 2 as well. They all cost a small amount of money, like £2 or something, but I don't mind because I know the games are good. But I'd never played worms 4 before, so I decided to start on worms 3 for some reason. I don't know why, but I decided that was the one I wanted to start on. And I begun playing that. So on the journey down south, I played that through its entirety. I played the whole thing.
Nice.
Yeah, and that was good fun. I enjoyed it. I also then after on the way back up, I decided, hey, I need to play some Worms 4 now, and I was looking forward to it because I thought Worms 3 is such a well-made game. It's so polished, it's so nice. Worms 4 is just going to be that, but better, surely. So I signed up for that and I downloaded it, and I was looking forward to it. But as it turns out, they sort of like cartoonized Worms 4, which was really weird. They made it more cartoony and made it less graphically beautiful by doing so. Like, they took away a lot of detail in the terrain and the worms, and the engine underneath was clearly just the same engine with a couple different weapons. Like, it wasn't anything. It was like Worms 3 but worse. And I've only played a few levels. I played like 4 or 5 levels, and I only got that far because I kept saying to myself, I need to try it properly. You know, I need to actually give it a fair shot before I condemn it to the woods forever.
Yeah.
But I am not enjoying it. It's just not a fun game because they thought they cracked the formula, and they did, right? They made a good game, but clearly the management were just like, oh, just put a new skin on it. and it'll be fine. And it's just not as enjoyable. Even the UI being different is actually worse than it was before. I'm just not enjoying it. So if you're interested in playing any Worms games on Android, maybe on iOS, I don't know where it's available. I recommend you play it, the Worms 3 version, not the Worms 4. And I think the Worms 2 is probably going to be good just due to the fact it's based on the original games. So that should be good, but just do not bother spending your money on Worms 4. It just feels off. It feels wrong.
There is a
disgusting
challenge when people make artistic decision that changes the feel of a game, which is what sounds like happened, right?
So this as well. There's nothing new with it.
Gotcha.
I mean, I remember back in the day when I first started playing Worms 3D, and I really enjoyed playing Worms 3D because it was like a new take on the original game. There's still lots of fun. In fact, it was back in the day when we'd have like the family fun game stuff. Yeah. And what we'd do is we'd do things like sit together on the couch, and like 3 or 4 of us would sit and play Worms 3D together and pass the controller back and forth, and that was nice, you know. That's how you do a new game in the Worms series. You do something that's new, that's fun, that still works out, and still has the original feel of wanting to play multiplayer, wanting to play for the Worms, what the Worms has, which is the ability to play with different weapons and different terrains, and through a mix of sort of like ARAM and being crap with aiming. Everybody will enjoy it because nobody can really aim in the game. It's entirely based on wind and stuff and gravity. So everybody will end up doing stupid stuff like shooting a bazooka and accidentally shooting their teammate, and it's good fun. And Worms 3D still had all that, but brought in a new element of 3D, and so when you're flying around, it was good fun. But this Worms 4 was terrible, so I don't recommend it.
Okay.
Anyway. I've also been playing. I've also been watching Supergirl. And that one was interesting to me. So the TV show Supergirl, which is obviously based on the Superman franchise.
I have watched it as well, or a lot of it.
I know you mentioned that before, so I look forward to hearing what your thoughts on my thoughts are, if you know what I mean. So I've watched 4 or 5 episodes now of season 1, and I love superhero stuff anyway, right? Like, if it has superheroes and if it has people awakening powers and learning to use it and that kind of crap, I love that standard layout of how to make a superhero series. I just love it. I'm a sucker for it, and I know it's just the same formula over and over, but I still really, really enjoy it. And in Supergirl, they have that sort of the same go-to, right? They have the love interests, and they have the learning curve, and they have the same thing where the superheroes to get used to their powers, and it's the same stuff, right? But I still kind of enjoy I enjoy the theme. I enjoy the overall storyline that goes through all these. The one thing that really annoys me with the series, and it was what I was worried about when I first started watching it, is this neat. Lucky, let me actually rephrase. There's in the original Superman is the dude, right? He is the guy. He is the dude who will solve all the problems. He will make everybody happy. He will, and he knows what he's doing. But there's a level of getting there. I mean, even in the films, he's still learning about his powers, and he's still learning about how to get there, and learning about, whether people come first or whether the people he loves come first. Those kind of trials and tribulations, and that's fine. In Supergirl, what they do is they keep comparing her to Superman. They keep saying like, "Oh, but I want to break free and have my own thing," and that's kind of like the theme. And I think that's fantastic. It's a really interesting theme because Superman is a well-established thing, not only in the real world here that we have, where people actually really want to hear about Superman. They know who he is. He's the go-to superhero. And so Supergirl making her own thing as a theme in the story makes perfect sense with our real world, as well as in the superhero fictional world, because Superman is well known to the Daily Planet. He's Daily Planet? Is it Daily Planet?
Yeah, his is Daily. Yeah, his is Daily Planet, and the Spider-Man's one is the Bugle. Daily Bugle.
Confused. That was Spider-Man one. Sorry, I don't know how you do that though. she's also trying to conflict with inside the series with making her own name out there rather than just being a Superman clone. And I like that because they're effectively using that technique that's used throughout TV and film, which is called greenlighting, isn't it? I think it's called greenlighting.
I'm not
So
sure.
basically, people will say that this is a problem. That why is Supergirl different than Superman, other than the fact that she's female? And so they sort of highlight that in the series and make it a theme, and then intentionally try to fight that back inside the series in order to avoid that problem of people thinking that. They're basically saying, look how we realize this is a problem, we're trying to highlight it and trying to fix it. This is how we're trying to do it. And that's great. I love that. The problem is that in the Supergirl series, they do that, but they make it too much about gender. They keep making these weird, jokey comments where they say something like somebody will criticize Supergirl for the way she does something. Like, for example, at the very start, in the very first episode, and it's part of the trailer, I'm not giving anything away here, she saves a plane, right? That's how she, announces
It comes
herself to
out,
the world.
essentially, yeah.
The superhero closet, and she says, I saved a plane, look at me, I'm saving a plane, and everybody's like, woo, you're a superhero, she saved loads of people, that's great. But then people start criticizing her by saying, yeah, but you left the plane in the river, you could have put it to the airport. You're causing those engineers and costing the city a lot of money, and it's damaging the ecosystem, and generally you did a bit of a sloppy job. I mean, yeah, you saved those lives, great, we're not complaining, but you could have just went that one step further and saved us a lot of effort, kind of thing. Not exactly a bad criticism to make. The environment's an important thing to look after, and I can totally see why people would criticize that. That's fantastic. That's a good thing that they're criticizing you, because then you can get better. But the first thing they do, every time that something like that comes up where somebody criticizes, they make a hint, if not blatantly saying, oh, is it because I'm a woman? Oh, is it because I'm not Superman? And they keep doing it, and it's really unnecessary, because I don't think her gender has much to do with it.
Well, you say that, Ken, but this is one of those, it's actually a key theme of the series, is that she is Supergirl and not Superman. And they do bring up, at least in one episode, where her boss, Kat, makes a comment about Supergirl, essentially, that says, she will always have it harder than Superman will because she is a woman.
Yeah, the quote is something along the lines of, everybody knows that it takes double the effort to do to be seen as doing half as good as a man, and I disagree with that anyway, right?
Ken, what challenge is, and this is one of those few things where it's hard to really express what it is, because when you are not in the group that is suffering, it is difficult to ever truly be able to understand what that is, right? Now, there can be a point where you say, certain points don't need to be belabored or are detracting, but at the same time, I can never speak to what it is like to be a woman, period. Can't, right?
Of course
Can't
not.
do it. And so, this show, which highlights a lot of feminine themes, because all of the pretty much all the main characters in it are female, that very much might be an accurate representation of the things they deal with every day. And for the core audience, if they are if they're really shooting for a female audience, that may be absolutely accurate. And so
I do not have a problem with there being a female superhero. I don't have a problem with one of the other main characters being a big CEO that's clearly trying to establish the theme of, look, women can be big CEOs, which they are in real life. Look at Meg Whitman, right?
Oh, no, they absolutely are.
In IT, the biggest IT company in the world right now, HP, or it was until it split in half last year. I don't know what's going on now. But point being that there are, I think that's a great theme, and I think it's great the way they're doing it. I think it's really intentional and really smart. I like the fact that they're showing that women can work in these different positions that are powerful and demanding, and they're even saying, look, she has a kid and is still juggling all of this, and they even talk about that sort of stuff. I think that's all great. I don't like the awkwardness that surrounds the fact that people are drawing, because honestly, I think if in this world, it just comes back to the sheer point of, if we had aliens land on our world that looked like us but had superpowers, personally, I wouldn't even think of them as male and female in the sense that we think. I would have think of them as male and female in a completely different context, because they're not human. They are literally aliens. They are literally completely different from us. Clearly, they shoot lasers from their eyes. They fly.
But
they can travel
they
through
still
time.
have well, in this case, it is still an absolute gender thing. There is a focus on her being Supergirl, not Superman, and it's part of the theme of the show.
Then it's very important that they keep doing what they're doing with the point of her saving people, her doing her job, her having the learning curve. I like the fact that they keep comparing her to Superman. I don't like the fact they do it through gender at times, but they do it generally. And I like the way they portray Superman as well, by the way. There's a slight side note here. They clearly don't want to put a name to the actor, at least at the beginning of the series, because or a face to the actor, because they want it to be the idea of Superman, at least at the start, rather than like this specific version of Superman. So he's always this like cloaked, not necessarily cloaked, but like sort of fuzzy figure of greatness and power and justice, and exactly what Superman should be. This shining example of American pride and justice and all that. And I love that. I love the fact that in the episode where he saves her, like I think they played that really well, because they did it in a way that it was like a superhero who's clearly an amateur getting saved by a superhero who's not an amateur and is well established, and he's seen as this shining cloak superhero. Brilliantly done. It was beautifully done. I love the fact that you can't see who it is. I think it's great, because the idea of him rather than him. And I hate using the word him there, because it brings gender into it. In my opinion, it has nothing to do with gender. It's to do with the fact that she is an amateur superhero. She has not established herself. She is being sloppy. She is doing things that are endangering lives, and is constantly brought up by the media and such. And I feel like they are enforcing a gender theme into it that is unnecessary, because I think it's my point is, let me just get to my final point. My point is not that we shouldn't be fighting the gender battle here. My point is not that we shouldn't be fighting that there can be female superheroes, that women can be empowered, yada, yada, yada. I think that's great. I really genuinely do. I just think we shouldn't do it in this awkward, antagonistic way of saying, putting the women under fire all the time. I think the empowerment of her instead is a better way of doing it, by saying, look at her do great, look at the CEO do great, look at these real, well, not necessarily real, but those very close to real life examples of people of women doing this amazing stuff. I think that's a better way of doing it, where we don't treat it as this like, ho, wow, a woman, how crazy. I feel like it's belittling what women actually do in real world. I think it's so belittling to what women can actually do in real context, you know? I think there are actually CEOs out there.
I will challenge you to continue watching the series and see if you agree with that same opinion further on. I'm on like episode 15 of it, and I believe what they've done and the feel of it absolutely fits the story they're telling. And the show continues to grow as it goes forward. And because I heavily disagree with kind of how much you are getting out of the initial portrayal of what's going on with the gender, because I think it absolutely fits into what continues forth and fits the show. So I'll say that, because, like I said, without going completely just spending the rest of the show talking about gender type issues, I cannot speak to how important it may be for women to get these kind of information put out in front of them. I have seen a lot of people respond to Supergirl as having a massive positive impact upon their lives that are females and such, as seeing a role model like her and bringing a level of what they like. What I've heard a lot of is reality and truth to the overall like discussion. And so I'll put it that, and we'll table this now maybe until, like I said, a little further in the series to see what you're thinking. Because it does continue to grow, and it's a theme, but I think they do a great job addressing it as it continues. Because it may feel heavy-handed at the beginning, I think it feels natural as it continues. And so I'd be curious to see what you think as it goes forward.
I agree. Can I just finalize that point? Because I really don't want to be seen as somebody who is anti-women in this whatsoever, because I'm really not. I am just of the opinion that we are further towards equality of women than the series portrays at the very beginning anyway. And again, I don't know what it's like later on. I feel like they portray it in a poor way. Admittedly, there are still many sexists out there in the modern and in the first world. However, the way they portrays it is kind of silly to me due to the fact that she's not even human. Literally not human. Like, I'm not saying that in the sense that I'm dehumanizing females here. I mean, literally, she's not human. And secondly, I wish they would focus more on the positives of having, again, female CEO, female superhero, than the negatives. I feel like it's belittling what feminism has actually done for our species. Now, anyway, yes, let's continue on to the next topic. Point being, I'm enjoying this series. I think it's good. I'm actually looking forward to watching more of it. I'm tempted to do more after the show, actually, and I highly recommend it to any of those who are interested. Okay, so that's my weekend geek. I'm sorry I took so long there. I got very. You
got animated. That is all right.
Yeah.
Well, to jump onto my side, it shouldn't take terribly long, but I did, and I might have mentioned before, I finished season 2 of Voltron. And I just wanted to bring it up again if I hadn't before, because I absolutely loved it. And then talking to one of my friends, Gage, after at Wasabi real quick, we mentioned it because we both really enjoyed Voltron, both season 1 and 2. And I just put out that season 2 to me ended on one of the highest notes I've seen in anime for a while, where I am so expectant now for season 3. It hurts me that I'm going to have to wait as long as I will probably have to wait for it. So I loved Voltron season 2, and it ended just with this level of like, there's going to be more and it's going to be awesome. Before I get further, thank you, Kopii, for reminding me. We did get an email in from Miss Kopii talking about Geek Cred. And so I wanted to jump on this real quick where it says, hello, Wayne and drunk fearless leader, Dr. Lord, Reverend Professor, and Bachelor of Science with the highest of honors, Kenneth Neal Reed II.
Oh, yeah, I've only had 2 glasses of wine.
And it starts out saying, who's that Pokemon? And in it, she continues saying, I bought material for my next costume. See attachment. Hint, it's not actually a Pokemon. That's all for now. Much love from Kopii. And so I'm going to throw up on the screen real quickly from that. For those watching along, what she posted along with the email, so you can see in the video, basically several swaths of cloth and thread. And if you can guess, I do know the costume. So there's a Pokemon theme there. And just throwing it out there that maybe you can guess what she's going to do next. And so,
dun, dun, dun.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kopii, for joining and bringing us that email about your Geek Cred and what you're getting ready to prepare going forward. So, yes, by all means, everyone, guess on that. All right, continuing with my Geek Cred. Kopii and I, speaking of which, also finished all of Trine 3. We completed it 100%. Got all 1,050 Trine pyramids in the game and finished the story, and it was quite good. We did have to, although, go back and finish things on her side because we were playing multiplayer, and we're guessing that through some of the delay in essentially the delay in kind of from online joining in and starting a level, we found that whoever's hosting essentially has the faster connection regardless of how fast your computer or internet is. And so she, when I was hosting, it would take a little longer to load in the game. So in doing so, I think there were several Trine pieces or the pyramids that I collected at the beginning of the level while she was still loading that she didn't get. So we had to go back to like 4 or 5 levels to pick up just a handful or maybe one piece here or there to ensure she got the 100% completion for achievements on it. And I have to say it's one, at least for me, one of the few, if any, games I've now got 100% Steam achievements.
Hey, congratulations. I don't think I have any.
Right? I was just like, what? Because I beat the whole game. It was actually a lot of fun. I'd have to look at, and maybe I can real quick, how many hours I have into the game. Because really, that's all. We started it together right away. And so this would actually probably be my most accurate representation of how long it takes to play a game. It said 9 hours total gameplay time in it. So about probably more like an 8 hour of just playing through it. And learning, but for such a small, inexpensive game and one that you can get as a full group, definitely worth every moment. I had a blast playing Trine 3, so throwing it out there. It's one of the few games I've actually fully completed, and who knows how long. What else? Played some more ARAMs on LOL. That was a fun one because we did a group where I know it was Kopii was in there, as well as myself and Lieutenant Fork, and I forget who else we jumped in at some point, maybe Earthweaver. But it's interesting because they must apply ELO or the general your level and stuff like that into how they try to do everyone even in ARAMs, because having Kopii in there made it for some interesting groupings where I could tell other people on my team, like when we'd have a random 1 or 2, as well as a majority of the other team, were very not high level, because they did things that were just like, what? Like, are you intentionally feeding or what? And that was very interesting. Very, very interesting. But yes, that was fun, enjoying those. If ever you see me on League of Legends, feel free to jump in. I pretty much only play ARAMs, and because of that, I will pretty much play with anybody in ARAM. That doesn't bother me at all. That's the whole point of an ARAM. You know, I don't have to be serious. I don't care. Also,
Even Hitler?
Hey, if they say Hitler and they just want to jump in ARAM, why not? It'd be interesting to see his dead corpse animating characters in ARAM. So, but also played some
Probably some people played with. All right, continue.
Seriously. Played some of the open beta this weekend that you can probably still jump in if you want of the game For Honor. Tried to play some more of that. They added a mode of
this.
They added a deathmatch mode for people playing now, where you run around and it's just kill each other 4v4 team. And if when you die, there's options. If you're on the ground, you slowly bleed out, and someone can come run around and get you. There's a lot of kind of running back and forth and trying to get away to better set up fights. And if you can 2v1 people and things like that, it makes a huge advantage. Had fun with that. Still struggling with whether that's a $60 game for me or not. But it is fun.
So have you seen the news for it this week?
Have anything specific? No.
So there was a couple news outlets which were claiming that due to the fact that it's set in the time period that it is, and they continually use the term Deus Vult. I don't know if I'm actually pronouncing that correctly because it's Latin. But I believe it means for like something along those lines, for God and country or something like that. But it's like a war cry that developed not only in the game, but as part of the game, but also in the player base, due to being accurate for the time of the Crusades and such. People have been, some media outlets have been claiming that it's racist because they're saying it's anti-Muslim and this game has elements inside it of
the fact that most of the motivation of people fighting back in those days were for political and religious reasons. And so, okay, so right there, Ken, I will just chop it off by saying those people are idiots and they need to get out of my gaming. If people try to do things somewhat historically accurate, then good on the developer for doing that. This goes back to the same arguments made about Battlefield 1 not including enough females as protagonists and main characters or multiplayer options. When at the time frame you did not have women in war. And so it makes no sense. Yeah, same argument. Stop getting on developers for making creative decisions that are actually more accurate to reality than inclusive because you just want everything included. Because like I don't need that. It's dumb.
Apparently, there's a large number of black people as well, like in fighting across Europe in World War. That's not accurate.
No, that is. In World War II, there were a lot of black. In World War I, it wasn't as much, but there were still a lot from the Americas.
And I know there was lots of Indians because Indians were taken in as the Gurkha troop, right?
We had entire groups of conscripts that were all basically in the U.S. were slaves that were trying to get freedom of, but still fought for the country, as well as that went across the ocean and fought in the world wars. We also had a ton of Africans from Libya and places like that came across and fought and stuff like that. So there were actually a lot of black representation in a lot of the wars. Across Europe.
So what I've heard with the game is that approximately half of the NPCs you come across, I don't know if that's accurate, just what I've heard, approximately half are African American. Well, they're not even African American, are black, right? Half of them are black, and I don't know how accurate that is at the times because there may be a lot of African Americans or black people inside the game or inside the real world war. But I don't know if it's half or so. But again, that requires the original claim to be truthful as well. So I don't know what the stats are.
Yeah, I don't know. But
I agree. I don't see the point in games being, here's a piece of history, but let's modify it so it meets with our standards of today.
Just to make today's culture feel more comfortable about something. Yeah, I have problems with that.
How do we learn that racism is bad without looking back in time and seeing all this horrible stuff saying this is why it's bad?
You have to be careful of revisionist history that doesn't accurately deplore what happened. You're right. Otherwise, we do not learn, and it allows the same transgressions to happen again. All right.
Very true.
Not your opinion, Ross. So we're going to continue on. But check out For Honor. It is pretty. Again, don't know if it's worth $60. So we'll see. And if I know you can find it on some sites like CD Keys and stuff for maybe 43 or something. Might be right for price for some. For me, it's a little, I don't know. Also want to post out, I've been playing Pokemon Go more because I continue to whenever I travel and find a reason to just at least fill up my Pokeballs. They're having an event right now for Valentine's week or so where they are having a higher respawn rate or spawn rate of all the pink colored Pokemon, as well as they're having the thing that I care more about with, if you sacrifice any Pokemon to the candy gods, you get double the candy now instead of normal. So 2 candies instead of 1 when you turn them into the doctor and such.
You mean the Poke Grinder?
Exactly. So now you get 2 for 1 out of that one. And I don't know if it also applies to how many when you catch, but I've been seeing 6 candies for catches, but I think that might be normal. The other thing I wanted to mention quickly is we're going to run up on time so fast, and I actually had articles this week, which is Kickstarter. I just want to say I have a problem. I've mentioned it before, but the problem persists now because having a Kickstarter app means I was able to kickstart something from my phone when I woke up first thing in the morning and saw that it had gone live and I had been watching it. And so, yes, I've committed to more money that I probably shouldn't have, but...
You're a bad man.
Well, and the challenge is because, again, they made it too easy. And the things I kickstart tend to be too expensive. But this is another one that I don't necessarily really have a need for, but I think could help me heavily in costuming. And that is a personal size vacuum form tool for the desk, which allows you to essentially put objects on a tray and have plastic heated up and drawn over them to create it in the form in plastic. And so you can quickly shape things. And for me, I am very much hoping it will work for armor and things like that for costumes.
I certainly hope so. Here's a tip and also a slightly disgusting fact about me.
Wait,
one of my biggest yes, one of my biggest downfalls in life and fitness and such is I'm very weak to the call of takeaway. I love takeaway. I love the laziness. I love the fatty foods. I'm not addicted, but I'm close to it. And I found the most effective way to stop me from ordering takeaway is uninstalling the apps that make it easy.
Dude,
just
it's
make
the whole
it
problem with apps.
Yourself.
Apps
just make it so you have to go on the computer instead. If you have to go on the computer, suddenly it's more difficult, and you'll go like, maybe I shouldn't. I did that for a reason. I uninstalled that for a reason. Maybe I shouldn't. And if you do that, it might persuade you not to spend money on $200 Kickstarter campaigns.
Yep. All right.
Or however much you spend, I don't know.
Oh, no, it sucks having the problems. All right, I want to transition because I do actually want to bring up a couple things today and not lose them about
technology, news, and more today on the Geekoscope.
Because there are several things at which I was like, want to see some of them. First one I wanted to bring up, and this is just a quick, nothing said and we'll see what happens. But for anybody who's ever been interested in conventions and gaming and things like that, there is now going to be an opportunity for you to maybe go participate in one of the biggest gaming conventions there are. Gama Sutra reports that E3 is opening its door to the public for the first time in history. So E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo.
Wait, what?
E3. And so
no, as in what to the news item? Like what?
Okay. So it's about to open stores to general public for the first time ever with 15,000 tickets scheduled to go on sale in under a week, meaning tomorrow. That's why I wanted to bring this up today. Starting on February 13th, the organizer, Entertainment Software Association, will open sales on the official E3 website. The initial batch of 1,000 tickets will be sold at an early bird special of $149 each. Again, why I'm saying this now and today if you are interested and can do this. Before the remaining 14,000 tickets are sold at $249 each. So that's a $100 discount. If you're in the first 1,000, expect them to go fast.
That's a good way to get them all to sell quickly.
Yes, and so this is going to be happening June 13th through June 15th. And this is, no question, the biggest entertainment expo that happens each year.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're interested, check that out. Like I said, tickets go on sale tomorrow. I'm actually very curious because I'd love to go, but I have to double check today to see if I have other things that are already other things I've already committed around those time frames. It feels like June is already going to be a stacked month. So,
I'm so
the
jealous
opportunity.
of your lifestyle.
what? Mine is no different than most people. So, throwing it out there, check it out if you're interested in it. Another one I want to bring up is something actually, let's see. There's so many cool things here. One of which, just a quick bit of news, is that Valve is getting rid of Greenlight. And so if people remember, Greenlight was essentially the indie, you could vote up, people could submit games to Steam to allow them to get early alphas, to kind of get support from Steam and advertising out there. But it was arguably a very buggy system and way for people to kind of get their games known. So they're going to try to adjust it with a new system that's going to be fee-based. And they say less than 5 years after launch of the service, Valve has decided to close down Steam's Greenlight platform and replace it with a more formalized process for developers to submit their games to Steam. This is potentially a huge deal for developers because in the 4+ years since the debut of Greenlight, the number of games released on Steam every year has skyrocketed. On the plus side, this has led to game marketplaces remarkably diverse and scope. Visual novels, free-to-play shooters, you name it, all the way to AAA open-world games. But it's also made for a very challenging place for devs to get their games noticed amid the crowds. And that's something Valve is hoping to address with the new system. The most important takeaway for devs is that Steam Direct, which is being called, is currently being conceived as a system where you submit paperwork to Valve and then pay a fee every time you want to put a game on Steam. If your game sells, then you recoup that fee. If
That's
not,
smart.
no dice.
That's a smart way.
So essentially, it's a small gateway, small barrier to entry to allow them to continue to allow all these developers on there. But instead of just anybody and everybody being able to promote a game and throw it out there with no consequence, it means you need to have at least a little bit in place to say it's worth the time and effort. And so throwing that in there. Okay. I kind of want to grab one more, Ken, and then I'll let you throw one if you want it, because I've got a few others I'd love to throw in there.
So Kopii just sent me your opinion is wrong piece, and I'm so tempted.
Nope. No.
I'm holding back.
I told her no devolving the show worth. All right, so with that, another quick one is that if you hadn't noticed recently, there's been another new update from Bethesda. This time for one of their games that's been actually one of the highest sellers out there they've ever had, Fallout 4. The new update actually fit into the last open DLC slot that's been on the Steam page for quite some time, and is an update that is for PC only. The reason being is this is a new official high-resolution texture pack coming out from Bethesda. Arguably, there's been a lot of people discussing, is it worth it? This pack updates pretty much all of the textures in Fallout 4. The challenge, though, is this is one of the biggest updates ever released for everything ever. The update is bigger than all of Fallout 4 and all of the DLCs combined. It is 58 gigs. This 58 gig texture pack basically updates the base level of all the different textures in the game, and also the base requirements that they put out, or recommended specs, for the game, which now includes, for recommended, a GTX 1080 with 8 gigs of memory on it.
Okay.
So I'll throw it out there. I've watched a lot of videos, and there's a link that I will provide in the notes and on the RSC from PC Gamer where they show some comparisons of screenshots. And a lot of people have argued that you can't really see a lot. The difference is they've really basically updated the base level of the texture so that if you got face mashed against in the game, the wall, or different objects, you will see finer detail in every texture in the game. The challenge is there are arguably much prettier textures out there from modders that are significantly lighter, meaning things from less than 2 gigs total download that you could probably retexture most of the important things in the game. Now, one of the better reviews I heard, they basically said, was someone said, this is a basis, not the changeover. This is meant for how to improve the basic game as a whole and still mod on top of that, so that some items that you'd probably never get a texture pack for, like certain road signs or the guardrail or something like that, will have seen a texture upgrade. It's just part of the challenge is because they all are updates of the original textures, they don't look significantly different, except that you can really see detail in the textures now. And so just something
that's
to
a
throw out
wise
there.
viewpoint, I think.
Yep.
I like that.
So check that out if you're interested. And the last one I wanted to really bring up, I'm going to be a hog, because I just thought this thing is cool as all get out. It is one retro console to rule them all. And now this is kind of a preemptive thing because this has not come out yet, and we're not potentially going to see this until April when the Kickstarter is supposed to come out. But there's a console being developed called the Retro Blocks. And the Retro Blocks, and I put a link into it that says everything you need to know, is a console being designed that is modular, that they're going to do a bit of a hybrid emulation process to it, which means they're using software emulation, and they're using a box that, if I go into the specs, is going to be running here's specs, a quad-core ARM 1.8 gig processor. It's going to be running Linux, and it's going to have 2 gigs of RAM. It's going to have USBs on it, gigabit Ethernet, HDMI, Bluetooth. It's going to have a DVD-ROMs as well as the Bluetooth for it. The idea is this is going to be a console that can run pretty much any old game. Right now, they're out of the box talking about the NES, the Super NES, Genesis, Mega Drive, Atari 2600, the PC Engine TurboGrafx 16, the original PlayStation 1, Sega CD, and through the PC Engine, potentially even some other arcade-type games. Their goal is to actually release a console that is legitimate and controlled by copyright. It is designed to, much like the Retrocons and stuff, let you put cartridges into the games and play them. But unlike some of those, it'll allow you to save them to an SD card. Now, they're worried about emulation and such, so the SD cards are going to be encrypted and tied to your account and your console, so that you can't just go share them anywhere. But the advantage of it is once you plug it in and download it to it, you won't need to continuously put it back in. And so the other nice thing is with the CD DVD drive, you'll be able to actually plug in actual PlayStation games, the original discs that you have, things like that. They're also using this in the hybrid pieces for some of those games, like the FX chips that came out in some of the Nintendo 64 games or Super Nintendo, for things like Star Fox. They will still need the chip in order to play, and so those games you'll still have to plug in to run, but most of the others will allow you to save all the content on it and be able to play them full emulation just from it with a very Netflix-style front interface kind of deal. Throwing it out there because this I like a lot because of the modularity of it. It goes a step beyond like the retcons and some of the older ones like that, and still allow you to do the regular in front of your box television experience with any game. And so I throw this out there. There's a lot of people who are purists and still want to play the original games, don't want to go the route of emulation. And I think this is a neat option for it. One of the things that also goes a step beyond is because of the modularity, you actually take the box on the front of it and change it out for which console you're emulating, which allows them to change some of the hardware, the actual physical connection, and the controller connections. So now any of your old controllers, that each one of those boxes will have at least 2 connections for the original controllers. And so for somebody who is truly an old school fan, I like this because I just think it looks damn cool. All right, that's it. I'm done. I'm not going to bring up any more, Ken. I left you time for maybe one. So if there's something you've got to burn and get off your chest for Geekoscope today, please go. Not copies.
I'm not doing it. It's tempting, but I'm not going to. Okay, I want to get rid of these old articles. I kept them around because they're good. And I've got a couple of things I want to talk about this week, but they'll just have to wait. So this is a little bit old, this one, but it's something that I found interesting because I know some people in our community still play WoW, but they only play exclusively on private or external, unofficial servers.
Gotcha.
So here, there's an article that says from IGN, World of Warcraft vanilla server developers clash. And as reported by Eurogamer, Nostalrius and Elysium, the teams who've resurrected vanilla World of Warcraft from the dead, have clashed over their respective visions for the project.
Oh.
The team requested that Nostalrius requested that Elysium cease using the server data they provided last year. Legacy World of Warcraft players, Nostalrius wrote, are being looked upon as pirates, which is contrary to Nostalrius' original vision of building a healthy WoW community. Okay. The goal was to relieve pressure on Blizzard by providing a home for vanilla WoW in order to lower tensions and begin building a WoW community that include legacy WoW players, wrote Nostalrius. When looking back at what happened, we have the feeling the main objective was missed. We know that Nostalrius carries the hope of the legacy community, But moving from fan server to pirate server reputation makes it harder to convince that legacy fans have a place in the WoW community. Until the stigma is removed, it's unlikely any true progress towards official legacy content can be achieved. Which is an interesting point, because I think I for one have always thought of them as somewhat piratey, because some of them actually make money off this, right? Like some people, some of these things actually make legitimate and good amounts of money off of these old school servers. Which is not necessarily an ethical thing to do. I think it could be easily argued. I mean, you're effectively making money off of other people's work in the end. Even if it costs you some work to be able to host it, still, I understand there is a demand for it out there. That doesn't mean you must supply it when you didn't write the original intellectual property. I think it could be easily argued. I'm not saying which way inclined I am personally, but that's just what people could say.
Hey, I have argued in the past that Blizzard needs to embrace and release original legacy WoW before anything else, and just host it on inexpensive servers type thing where because they're not updating, right? And that you could get with like a $5 a month subscription and just play all the original content. They would make so much money.
If they just included it with the normal subscription, but there were specific servers made just for that, I'd be okay with that too.
So included in the original by default, yes, but for others like me who are not going to pay $12 a month to go back to WoW, I could see paying $5 a month to go to Legacy WoW. It's a little easier to swallow.
I'd be surprised. I think a lot of people would pay $12 to go back to Legacy WoW.
I think they would. I wouldn't. That's just me.
That's fair. You're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah.
That's fine. But so it's interesting these two servers are clashing, and I have something of a respect for both their positions, because Elysium are just of the opinion of, hey, this is available, we want to provide something for people that isn't normally available, and so we're going to provide it because it's easily accessible. We want to do what's easily accessible and doable. In other words, we can do it, so why not, right? Like fair enough. They haven't been shut down by Blizzard, and they can do it, so why don't they? It makes sense. But then you look at Nostalrius, and they're doing something that has a vague ethical outline, but at the same time, they're not even vaguely allowed by Blizzard either. Both of them are looked at as pirate servers. Now, just because they wish to not be seen as it doesn't mean they aren't a pirate server. They're still stealing the intellectual property to those servers and to the code, and these are people who, arguably, according to Blizzard, might otherwise be paying them money to have the experience that they're having. So if you think of it that way, where they're costing the company who owns the product money in exchange for somebody who doesn't own the product to earn money, that's ethically odd, at the very least. So I think it's silly for them to fight each other. I think they've got enough of a battle on their hands than to fight each other. I think they should really try to team up here. But it's nice to see that they're at least trying to do something ethical here, if nothing. And again, try is the word. I don't think they are doing something ethical by making this fight or even doing this in the first place, but at least they're trying. To put it simply.
Something.
So
there is something.
Before we get to the very, very, very end, I would like to give a shout to our art contest, because I was planning on doing it earlier and I forgot. So our art contest has finished today, so I want to announce the winner. In fact, I really shouldn't. Have you seen the winner, sir?
I have seen the winner, sir. And so,
can you do that for me?
Thank you for everyone participating in and helping us out with the art contest. Very appreciative for basically all the submissions, and for everybody voting and helping us out with actually getting our contest done. So the results are in, and this is based on the votes of the people who participated. Thank you all for voting. And the winner of this month's contest is Ken. And it is for his shot for food titled Burns Night. Yeah. And so congratulations, Ken. It is a lovely piece. It has a wonderfully warm color tone to it. And how that you presented that one. Want to very much thank everyone else for the submissions as well. Kopii, loved your perler work, as well as all the colors of the perlers. Loved all the hand-drawn stuff that came in from everyone from, Lily, through Kitten Features, as well as, my brother Earth, who had some really amazing shots this time. So great job, everybody. Thank you for participating. And jump in to this next one. All right. So, Ken, would you like to lead us out on the show?
Sure thing. Check out our this month's art contest, which is now available. We have, I think, 8, something like that, 8 pieces currently put already. And we still got like 3 weeks left, so that's fantastic contributions. So shout out to everybody who's taken part so far. There are a maximum of 3 submissions, so please do go take part. It's good fun. Themes include emotion, connections, sport, music, religion, and the quote by Vincent van Gogh, I dream of painting and then I paint my dream. So go check out that and take part. It's good fun. And as we promised, our Facebook gave a shout out to the winner this month, which is slightly, I always feel bad winning the contest because it feels a little bit odd when I host it along with Wayne here. So, but that is community voted, so I think it's fair. But by winning, you get the prize of free advertisement for your stuff, so it's a good win. 700 plus people have the potential to see it. The 700 odd people that have liked our page, plus anybody who likes it, all of their friends will suddenly see it. So that you can add a couple hundred on per like. So, that's no small amount. So if you want to get your art out there, please take part in our contest. Go to the forums, go to vtliberproductions.com and go to the forums at the top. You can take part there. Send us an email, showx@vtliberproductions.com. We enjoy getting emails. We enjoy you taking part. It's always good fun. We'll read out your geek cred or whatever else you want to send in. We can also send in news if you like to. We can talk about that too. That's always fun. Check us out on twitter.com/VTWShowX for the official show account, where we do basically just tweets of when we go live or our contests and such. Twitter.com/DocDead for Mr. Wayne here and see all what he's up to in his Twitter sphere. And you can also check out myself on Twitter.com/GoHex for any of your meme needs or complaining about things. I'm good at that. You can also check us out on Facebook, search for ShowX, and you can find us there. If not, you can go to facebook.com/VTW.showX, and that's our page there. We like to share lots and lots of memes. It's slightly pathetic. I do not recommend you like it unless you have a sad existence. Do not like it. It's a waste of your time. No, I'm kidding. And otherwise, check out our partner network, Altitude Radio. Those guys are fantastic. Check out them and all their shows, as well as all the shows on vtdiversions.com. Thank you for having me on the show, sir. I look forward to hopefully seeing you in the gaming night.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I very much appreciate you, Ken, doing the show as always. And I will catch you guys for me next week, because I won't be gaming, but definitely jump in there. Cool. TeamSpeak information on the front page, vtwproductions.com. Love to have you. With that, everybody, thank you for listening to the show, and we'll catch you in the future. Have a good week, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Goodbye. See you next Wasabi. Good night. Awesome.